Chapter 20. Sunday morning in Weybridge was still and grey, with those layers of silence only autumn and the Sabbath combined can wrap around an English suburb. We parked in a cul-de-sac off Larchdale Avenue, from where the Morrisons' drive was visible across the road, and watched the coming and going of newspaper delivery boys and smart old men with shabby dogs on leads and polished cars on low-gear errands. The pace was slow and aimless, the locals subdued and eventless. Nothing happened, nor seemed likely to happen, until with the stealthily suddenness of a shark's fin, she appeared. A white Ford Granada drew unshowingly to a halt just short of the Morrisons' house. Then the second, after I recognised the passenger as Alice Graham, her daughter, the woman I know as Emma Morosco, emerged from the driver's side of the car and walked briskly along the pavement. She was dressed in grey suede boots and a black fur trim coat. Her hair was less curly than I remembered and more professionally styled. This was Simone Graham, undisguised. "Let's go," I said, as soon as she had turned down the Morrison's drive and vanished from sight. Michaela nodded and we climbed from the car. We moved fast, knowing Simone wouldn't linger, but banking on the mystery of the message Michaela had left with the Morrisons to delay her for several minutes at least. Michaela headed for the driver's side of the Ford, while I marched up to the passenger door and made Alice Graham start with surprise by rapping my knuckles on the window. The colour drained from her face as she looked out at me. Then she drooped round to see Michaela sliding into the driver's seat. Before she had a chance to react, I opened the rear door and climbed in behind her. "Good morning, Mrs. Graham," I said quietly. "Surprised to see me?" She glanced round me, her eyes darting anxious. "You may be even more surprised to learn that my companion is the woman your daughter's impersonated, Michaela Lanyon." "I don't know what you're talking about," she said hoarsely. "You should be denying you have a daughter, far less one who impersonates people. But I'm glad we don't have to waste time on that. Get out of this car." "Tell me, are you an accessory before or after the fact? I mean, did you know she meant to murder Constantine?" There was a shocked intake of breath and a sudden frown as she turned to look at me. "Or didn't you know she murdered him at all?" She was frightened now, and of something worse than the trap was sprung on her. She was frightened of the truth about her daughter. Killing Constantine could be regarded as a public service. "But believe me, I don't intend to carry the can for it. Leave me alone." "I'd be happy to, if only your daughter had left me alone. But she didn't. She made a fool of me." "Okay, I can live with that. But being framed for murder is in a different league, isn't it? That amounts to what you might call serious interference in my life." "If you're in the slightest doubt on the point, Mrs. Graham," said Michaela, "let me tell you what he's saying is absolute truth. Maybe you saw helping her to cheat the Napiers was all it amounted to, but I'm afraid it went well beyond that." "That's why it has to end here and now," I resumed. "She has to be stopped for her own good and her son's." Alice Graham's voice dropped to a defeated murmur. "What do you want me to do?" "We want you to stay here and help me entertain your grandson," said Michaela, "while Mr. Napier has a chat with your daughter. And to answer one question," I added. "I'll have to wait," Michaela put in urgently. "Here they come." I looked up and saw Simone Graham, and beside her little Edmund, clad in jeans, trainers, and duffel coat. They were at the top of the Morrison drive. As I watched, they turned towards us. Simone's hand stiffened in the act of ruffling her son's hair. She'd seen us. I opened the door, climbed out, and slowly walked towards her. "Who are you?" piped Edmund as I approached. "A friend of your mother's." He looked up anxiously at Simone, and she patted his shoulder reassuringly. "It's all right, Edmund. There's nothing to be afraid of." "There's another friend in the car," I said, smiling at him. "Why don't you wait with her and Granny while your mother and I have a word?" He looked up at Simone again. "Yes," she said brightly. "You do that, Edmund. We won't be long." But he hesitated, frowning at me suspiciously. "Go on. I expect Granny has a present for you." Reluctantly but obediently, he trailed past me. Simone watching him go while I watched her. Then I heard the car door open and close behind me. "What do you want?" Simone demanded, her voice and expression chilling, as she returned attention to me. "What do you think?" "Rather more than a word, I imagine. Let's walk a little way." "All right." We headed along the pavement side by side, past the Morrison's house, and on a slow matching pace. "How did you find me?" "It's a long story." "Who's the woman in the car?" "Michaela." I should have guessed. The real Michaela. Just like you're the real Simone. I understated you, I admit that. It's not all you're going to have to admit. I wouldn't be too sure. This isn't Goon Healy Downs. There are plenty of witnesses, your own son among them. Shooting me wouldn't be a lot for your visiting rights. Shooting me wouldn't do a lot for your visiting rights. I don't have a gun with me. Respectable members of society don't carry such things on days out with their children. And that's what you are, is it? A respectable member of society? Yes, and I'm willing to prove it by turning a wanted murderer into the police. It won't be that easy, I'm afraid. Why not? Because it's 2 against 1. Michaela will bring me back up in every detail and supply me with an alibi for the night of Constantine's murder, and we can prove who you are. We even have your birth certificate. And frankly, I don't think you can rely on your mother to withstand much in the way of interrogation. You can't tie me to the murder. Don't be too sure. So long as the police think I made up your very existence, fine. But they won't now, and the chances are there'll be something of you on Constantine's body, or in the car, or in his house, some tiny scrap of forensic evidence you won't be able to explain away. It'll never be enough. I think it will, and I think you do too. No, you're going down, Simone. Can't you feel the ground crumbling beneath your feet? If I do, I'll take your whole family with me, the dead as well as the living. I wouldn't count on it. My father's an expert at damage limitation. He'll rig out anything you allege. The papers will crucify him and you. Empty words based on the false assumption that I care about him. I'm not sure I do any more thanks to you. You're bluffing. No, I'm negotiating. I admit you can give my family a very hard time. A nasty taste of scandal and embarrassment may be worse, and I admit there's a lot for me to talk my way out of, but the odds are heavily against you finishing in the clear, which is why I'm prepared to make you an offer. What kind of offer? A generous one in the circumstance. We took a few paces in silence, our feet scorching faintly on the fallen leaves scattered damply along the pavement. Then she said, "Go on. You go to the police and admit killing Constantine. Plead manslaughter on the grounds that he was blackmailing you with some obscene photographs he took of you as a teenager. He picked you up while you were on an off-season holiday in Clacton with your mother back in the late 50s or early 60s. She'll have to corroborate that, of course. But the stuff they'll find at his house will corroborate quite a lot on its own. And where are those photographs? You burned them immediately after the murder. What about the tie lever? Your tie lever. You stole it from a garage. I'm a friend of yours. Which you confirm, of course, yes. Why did you make a run for it? I panicked when I realised what must have happened. Eventually I tracked you down and persuaded you to confess. And the money? Pretty odd, surely, for a blackmailer with his victim to have a joint bank account with £1,000,000 sitting on it. The police have no reason to go looking for hidden bank accounts. Besides, it won't be sitting in it. You're going to instruct the bank to pay the whole lot back to my father. Am I really? She glanced around me. I'm afraid so. Sure, the police will smell a rat, especially when they realise my friend and I were independently acquainted with Constantine. It's too much of a coincidence. It's no coincidence at all. We met at his house. I was there to talk about Nicky. You were there to plead for the return of the photographs. We got together afterwards and you told me he was blackmailing you. What about the letters? I've still got them, you know. Do what you like with them. They don't matter now. I see you've worked this all out very carefully. It's your least worst option. I suggest you take it. Why should I? What's in it for me? A much shorter sentence than you get if the police learn the truth. And so I'll make sure they do if I have to. Take your pick. We've reached a T-junction at the end of Larchdale Avenue, crossing to the other side of the road. We slowly started back the way we'd come. So what's your answer? First tell me how you found me. Constantine had obtained a copy of your birth certificate. It was hidden at his house. Michaela knew where to look. She would, of course, yes. You should have quit while you were ahead, Simone. You really should. Going through with the murder and the frame-up after you knew Michaela was alive was plain foolhardy. I had no choice. Constantine would have tried to cheat me out of my share if I'd let him live. He didn't scribble away a copy of my birth certificate out of knowledge or curiosity. He was preparing some devious move against me, you can be certain. But probably nothing quite so drastic as murder. He deserved to die. You know that. So does Michaela, I imagine. I have no qualms about doing it. I never thought you had. Besides, sparing him would have let you off the hook. I didn't go into this just for the money. Why then? To find out what happened to my father. I never met him, not once. My mother said he'd deserted her while she was carrying me and vanished without trace. She never told me about the murder or his relatives in Yorkshire. She kept the whole thing a closely guarded secret. I was out of the country when he called on her after getting out of prison, so she was able to keep that from me as well. When did you find out? Not until his name was splashed all over the papers after Nicky Lanyon's suicide. She had no choice then but to tell me. And as soon as I heard what he'd been going and heard where he'd been going the last time she saw him, I knew you Napiers and had done for him somehow. And you chose me as your means of getting at the truth. No, that's down to Constantine. I went to him because I realised that if I was right about my father's reason for going back to Truro, then he had a financial incentive to help me. Impersonating his supposedly dead stepdaughter in order to play on your conscience was his idea. We weren't likely to get far without access to your family secrets. And who better than a family man to give you that access? Exactly. You were the weak link, Chris. Nicky's childhood friend. It made you the obvious choice and the ideal candidate for a murder charge. That meant you all suffered. Your parents, sister, and brother-in-laws would be tainted by association. You'd all be given a taste of your own medicine. But your father was a murderer, Simone. He wasn't framed. Why was he worth avenging? Because he deserved better than to be driven to blackmail. When he came home from the war, he needed help and compassion, not rejection. You made him a murderer, and then you let him rot in prison for 22 years before you finished him off. I won't argue with you. I don't accept your portrayal of Edmund Tully. It sounds like an idealized vision of a father you never had the misfortune to meet. But if you want to hang on to a fantasy, fine. I don't think it had much to do with your motives anyway. I think they're all about money. That's why you took the risk of killing Constantine. So you could have it all. Why shouldn't I? The risk would have paid off, but for you giving the police the slip and throwing in your lot with somebody Constantine had assured me was dead. I admit, the very first time you told me about Pauline Lucas, I had a nasty feeling she'd turn out to be Michaela, but I was already in too deep by then to pull out. Besides, it didn't really seem possible. I mean, where's she been all these years? None of your business. It's instructive, though, how much more effectively she covers her tracks than you did. What do you mean? She's shunned every form of personal entanglement. That's the key to it, Simone. Isolation. But you have a mother, an ex-husband, and a son, and you're in touch with all of them. Too many connections to conceal, altogether too many. So my downfall is having a son I care about, in a sense. Without him, you could have stayed one jump ahead. But coming here today to pick him up, as usual, was asking for trouble. She sighed and glanced ahead at the car. That's the thing with children, Chris. They're hard to let go of. He was looking forward to our day out. And you know what? So was I. She stopped as if reluctant to reach the point, not far off, where the occupants of the car would become clearly visible. The expression on their faces, the look in their eyes. I thought with the sort of things £1,000,000 could buy, I might be able to establish my credential as a mother once and for all. Why have they been in doubt? Because of a criminal record. You must know there are some previous convictions that might come back to haunt me in court. Convictions for what? Drug trafficking and one or two other things. This isn't the first time I've tried to make $1 million or failed. There's nothing I can do about that. There's nothing anyone can do. What's your answer, Simone? Time's nearly up. My answer? She looked at me, a cynical, self-mocking smile playing at the corners of her mouth. Oh, I think you've known what they would be all along, haven't you, Chris, before you even posed the question. Chapter 21. And so the deal was done. A deal I've had cause to regret since. Not that I can think, even now, of a better way to have played the cards I held at the time. The lies was obliged to tell at Simone Grimes' trail for murder. 11 months later seemed worth telling to avoid the police exposure of some older and much darker lies. Simone herself played her part so well, I sometimes believe her imaginary teenage encounter with Neville Constantine had actually taken place. She had the advantage, of course, of being able to describe the Constantine Lane household as it must have been 20 years previously with uncanny accuracy. A stockpile of hardcore pornography found in the garden shed at 17 Wardolph Road, and the evidence of assorted neighbours left nobody mourning for her victim. For all that, she was convicted of murder and given a mandatory life sentence, but there were so many mitigating factors that, according to a solicitor who seemed to think I'd want to know, she wasn't likely to spend much more than 5 or 6 years in prison. Alice Graham told me quite a lot about her daughter before and during the trial, including the answer to the question I've tried to put to her at Weybridge. Alice's biggest regret was that she not told Simone the truth about Edmund Tully from the outset. Then she'd never had been able to develop such a romanticized view of him. No doubt the lack of a father explained, at least in part, her wild and ruthless nature. Marriage to Ian Morrison and the responsibilities of motherhood had only sharpened her appetite for glamour and excess. When her marriage had foundered and her unstable lifestyle had cost her custody of her son, she renewed the criminal contacts she had originally made in the Brighton drug scene and gone in pursuit of quick riches the illegal way. But in her case, crime hadn't paid, not at any rate until her imprisonment for murder. The trial had received more and more publicity as it went on, and the verdict released a deluge of sympathy for women portrayed in the media as a kind of heroine in our times who survived sexual abuse as an adolescent and refused to give in to blackmail as an adult only to be victimized all over again by the law. What sort of a crime was it? Editorials pondered. For her to turn at last on the man who'd persecuted her. What sort of country was it? Feminist pressure groups demanded to know where such an act was even regarded as a crime. Questions were asked in Parliament, bishops were quizzed about it on television, everyone had an opinion, except those who knew the truth. We stayed silent for our own good reason, while the world turned Simone Graham of the winsomely photogenic smile into a poignant symbol of social ills and legal wrongs. Tom Perot was just about the only journalist in the country who didn't swallow it whole. Not that even he was able to work out what had really happened. He was hoping for his nationwide front page scoop, but he hoped in vain. By the time Simone's appeal came round, a full-scale campaign for acquittal was underway. When it failed to sway the judges, those dedicated to the cause resorted to demands for her early release. At first they seemed to fall on deaf ears, but I had little doubt the authorities would give way in the end. It was in fact a year short of her solicitor's most optimistic estimate that Simone was set free. Within weeks, she'd sold her story to a Sunday newspaper for an undisclosed sum, but strangely she didn't offer me a share of the fee, despite my active role in the fiction of her past. She managed to write me out of the picture almost completely, for which I was truly grateful. I never forgot about her, of course, but she gradually slipped to the back of my mind as her name faded from the headlines. Once she was free and everything her supporters had worked for had been achieved, she was forgotten with surprising speed. The years passed and I heard no more of her. During those years, the real Michaela, not the false one, dominated my thoughts for reasons I found at first disarmingly unexpected and later fulfilling obvious. It took time and a lot of effort to lure her out of her secure anonymity, to reunite her with the Jagos and her own true identity. I told myself my devotion to the task was attributed to guilt for abandoning Nikki, but eventually I faced the fact that I was falling in love with her, and around about the same time discovered, to my astonishing delight, that she was falling in love with me. I remained the only person she'd ever trusted with the truth about her flight from Clacton as a 17-year-old schoolgirl and her subsequent triumph over a succession of miseries and misfortunes to become Caroline Forbes, an interior designer in her mid-30s with a considerable reputation and expanding clientele among the chic and affluent of London. The shared secret of her past became a bond between us that time seemed to strengthen. By a series of unpremeditated transactions, we became first friends, then lovers, then husband and wife, and only later did we wonder why it had taken so long. Marrying Michaela raised a barrier between me and my family that I'd have regretted more if I'd loved her less. Pam had divorced Trevor by then and sailed happily into a second marriage to the owner of a flourishing boat building business in Falmouth. But she still held Michaela partly to blame, as she undoubtedly was for her breach with Trevor and simply couldn't come to terms with her as a sister-in-law. My mother shared Pam's uncomprehending disapproval, though I think would have won her over if she lived to see the birth of her grandson. What view Trevor took of the matter I never found out. He didn't stay long in Tenerife or anywhere else over the next few years. According to Tabitha, the only member of the family who didn't turn her back on me, he manages some kind of country club in Kenya these days. She and Dominic took Trevor's grandchildren out to see him recently and returned with the Surprising news that the climate doesn't agree with his drinking habits. Tabitha seemed worried about him, but not perhaps as worried as she should be. Some part of me would have relished my father's reaction to acquiring a Lanyon for a daughter-in-law, but he died while he was still nurturing our relationship in secret, succumbing to a massive stroke halfway through a round of golf. He never brought himself to thank me for receiving the money he had paid Considine, but turned out to have expressed his gratitude by refraining from disinheriting me. I became a wealthy man under the terms of his will, and an even wealthier one when shortly afterwards Pam sold to our house, enabling me to capitalize the stake in the hotel Grant had bequeathed to me. I tried to insist on handing the matter over to Michaela, only to encounter her steadfast refusal to accept a penny of it. But her refusal counted for nothing in the end. What was mine and should have been hers became ours instead, and our son's, of course. He was born in the second year of our marriage. A few months after my mother's death, we christened him Nicholas Joshua and soon found ourselves calling him Nicky. We bought an old farmhouse shortly after we got married, up on the dip slope of the Chilterns near Nettlebed, and lived there still leading a happy and contented family life, something neither of us ever expected to have and relish all the more as a result. Michaela gave up her interior design work when Nicky was born, but I've kept the car restoration business going, pursuing it now more as a hobby than from any kind of financial necessity. The farm came with enough well-spaced barns and outhouse for me to start dreaming of establishing a classic car museum to run along the workshop. The God knows why I want to share that the peace and quiet I enjoy there with the coachloads of visitors. Maybe it will remain a dream. That's what Miv seemed to recommend when she descended from her Snowdon fastness recently to check up on her ex-husband's welfare. I suppose after all these years of falling flat on your face, you have to land on your feet eventually, sweetie. You've got it made here. Lovely wife and son, beautiful surroundings. I wouldn't change a thing if I were you, but change isn't always voluntary or even avoidable. Our life, Michaela and mine, is everything we could want it to be, yet part of its perfection is the awareness we share of its fragility. I made a deal with Simone Graham, but I could never have said for certain that would be the end of it. I hoped and prayed, but I knew hope and prayer wouldn't necessarily be enough, not in the long run, and I was right, which is why what happened yesterday morning isn't entirely unexpected. This, after all, is the long run. We rent a small chalet in the Swiss Alps near Montreux, where we ski in winter and walk the mountain meadows in summer. Nicky's school had just broken up for Easter, and we decided to slip away to Switzerland for the duration of his holidays. The weather was fine, and I was planning to drive the stag down through France, taking on the annual Advent here mobile show at Reims on the way, while Michaela and Nicky flew out to Geneva and went on by train to Montreux. I was in the workshop putting the car in order for its long run when the telephone rang and went on ringing. Michaela had gone into reading with Nicky to buy him some new shoes. I had the place to myself and little inclination to answer, but the caller was persistent, so eventually I relented. Hello, I said. I'm picking up the phone, and in the strange suspended second before the caller spoke, I knew whose voice I was going to hear. Chris, I'm sure you know who this is. We have to meet. Why? I asked after a lengthy pause for unveiling thought. I'd explain when we do. Explain now. No, tomorrow afternoon at the cemetery where your great uncle was buried. Meet me by his grave at 4 o'clock and come alone. Look, Simone, whatever you have to say can just be there or suffer the consequences. Then the line went dead. I stared into the dust-moted sunlight shafting through the workshop door. I could guess what she wanted. I'd had long enough to anticipate her demand, but still I couldn't guess what my answer would be. I said nothing to Michaela about the call. I felt sure she refused to let me go alone if I did, but this was a problem of my making, and I wanted her and Nicky a long way away when I tried to solve it fully. And finally, Simone's timing had given me the chance to ensure that was the case, and it was a chance I wasn't about to pass up. I drove Michaela and Nicky to Heathrow early this morning, letting them believe I'd be heading for Dover as soon as I'd seen them off. But my destination lay west, not south. A long, fast run down the well-remembered road through Wessex out to Cornwall by midday. I reached Truro in the early afternoon. booked into Tudor House Hotel for the night and set off for the cemetery on foot in ample time for my appointment. I still don't know what to do, but soon the past and the present will meet to become the future, and then I would know. Tomorrow. I woke up early this morning while dawn was still only a faint grizzling of the night. For a fraction of a second, I thought Michaela was lying asleep beside me. Then I remembered where I was and why. The needs of the present rushed into my mind before the past could throw off the last trappings of a dream. I was alert and fully awake, and as ready for the day ahead as I would ever be. I left Tudor House in strengthening grey light, as rabbits preened and nibbled on the lawn, and a squirrel leapt from branch to branch of the horse chestnut tree. The air was cool and burning new, the city as serene and empty as a closed museum. Unconsciously almost of what I was doing, I retraced the route I walked with Uncle Joshua that last afternoon of his life nearly 50 years ago, down the hill and round by Old Bridge Street to the cathedral where we parted. But this morning there was to be no parting. I followed his unseen, fast striding figure along Cathedral Lane, across Boscawen Street, and up the broady curved slope of Lemon Street towards the beckoning dawn blurred figure of the Launder Monument. And now, as I near the top of the hill, I see I'm not the only one to have woken early and found their footsteps leading in this direction. A figure appears from the far side of the monument as I approach. Our eyes meet, and in the instant of mutual recognition, I feel suddenly and immensely relieved. There's no need to wait until this afternoon. She can have an answer here and now. I thought it all through last night. I didn't hurry. I didn't ignore any of the ramification of what it meant. I let the certainty grow on me in the enroaching darkness until I was sure beyond question. To drag it all into the open now, to exhume so much more than a long burrowed body in Bishop Wood carried more risk for Simone than mine, with both being guilty of perjury, but she stands to forfeit her parole on a life sentence for murder, whereas Edmund Tully's murderer is out of her reach as well as the law. Her advantage, her incentive, is her determination to get the better of me, yet anything less than total victory will taste like defeat to her. She wants the money, of course she does, but she wants the pleasure of extracting it from me even more. She wants to win where Edmund Tully lost. And I'll let her. I really think I would, but for the fact that it wasn't me who'd be giving it up. The money is only technically mine. Morally, it's Michaela's and Uncle Joshua's, of course. He hewed it out of the Alaskan wilderness 90 years ago and died for the considerable satisfaction of denying a blackmailer so much as a penny of it. As I grow older, I feel closer to him and even more reluctant to let him down. In the final analysis, however, the choice wasn't mine to make. The decision of the money was Michaela's. I telephoned her at the chalet as soon as I judged it late enough for Nicky to be asleep in bed, and broke the news. At first she was angry with me for holding out on her, but the anger didn't last long. She knew who I'd been trying to protect, and she knew, as I did, that there was only one way to do it. "What are you doing there?" Simone demanded as we confronted each other from adjacent corners of the plinth at the foot of the monument. She seems almost to resent my presence, to regard me as an intruder on her property. Trouble sleeping? Trouble waiting? Then don't wait any longer. I set my offer now, and we needn't meet this afternoon or ever again. If only I could believe that. You can. No, if I pay up this time, there'll be another time and another after that. You'll always come back for more. You can't help yourself. She smiles as if I'd paid her compliment. You just have to take the risk. I'm afraid I'm not prepared to. You're right. We needn't meet this afternoon or ever again, but only because I'm not going to let you blackmail me now or in the future. What are you saying? I'm saying it's no deal. You're not going to get £500,000 from me. You're not going to get the loose change from my pocket. You refuse absolutely and irrevocably. She stares at me disbelievingly. You don't mean that. I do. You can bring your cozy world crashing down around your head. Have you forgotten that? No. Then you must accept. But I choose not to, you see. I think you're bluffing. You can hurt me, it's true, but only by crippling yourself in the process, and you're too sensible to throw away what you've got. What have I got? Freedom, at a price. She moved closer, her gaze narrows. You're wrong. I'll go through with it. I'll drag you down with me. It'll be worth it for the money, for the thrill of seeing whether I can get away with it, and for the satisfaction of seeing my father properly buried. You'll never achieve that. Won't I? Trevor Rutherford could show the police where to dig, and I reckon he'll be forced to when I've said my piece. It won't make any difference. I paused, debated over now whether to tell her what her mother never has. And cold, then the cold heart glint in her eyes closed the debate. And Charlie wasn't your father. What? He was just a name for your mother to put on your birth certificate. He was her husband, but your father-in-law only. It's why he left her after coming home from the war, because she was carrying another man's child. You're lying. She told me so herself. Ask her if you don't believe me. You know I can't do that. I spasmed something between grief and hatred across her face. My mother died 3 months ago. Did she? I asked, generously surprised. I'm sorry, I haven't heard. You must have known. It explains why you waited till now, of course. She perjured herself on your account, just as I did, but on fair game, whereas it explains why you think you're free to lie to me. Her face is flushed with anger, her voice quivering. That's all? I'm not lying, Simone. Your mother told me the truth in strictest confidence, and I'll have respected that confidence if you respected our bargain. But you chose not to, so you must accept the consequence, however unwelcome. Who do you claim my real father was? I don't. Your mother did not decline to say. A holiday maker, a travel salesman, a neighbour. You'll never know. She's taken the secret to her grave. I take a step towards her in lower voice. As for our secret, I suggest you do the same for your father's sake. Bastard, she murmurs. This changes nothing. I think it does, in you. I think it severs a link that never truly existed. She stares at me, hating me more for this single revelation than she ever could for outwitting her in the past or defying her in the present. I'll still go through with it. That's a promise. I'll do it. It's only to spite you. Spite won't take you far enough to ruin you. I don't think so. I'll deny everything. You won't be able to. I'll still have the letters. Fine, publish them. Raise some doubt about Michael Linion's guilt. I don't mind. Throw as much mud as you like. It can't stick to the dead. My father, your mother, Sam Biggis, Miriam Tully, they're not here to confess anything. As for me, I'll take my chances. It'll be your word against mine. I wonder who will be believed. A self-confessed liar who's taken the money and run? Or what's it you call me? A committed family man. Your mother's death shortens the odds in my favour. You can sell your story and make everyone who campaigned for your release look ridiculous. You can make life difficult for Michaela and me, but not impossible. That's the point. Whatever you do will survive. And what do you know? And do you know why? Tell me, because she's the real thing. And I'm not, I suppose. You said it. What about this then? Her hand moves deftly inside her coat and suddenly I see she's holding a gun and it's pointed straight at me. I find myself wondering with fleeting irrelevance whether it's the same gun she pulled at me at Gunili all those years ago. It certainly looks the same. Is this real enough for you, Chris? You're not going to shoot me, Simone, aren't I? When it would make such a big story, no one would pay you for it. No, but they'd listen to me, wouldn't they? They'd believe me. They have to, because you wouldn't be around to contradict me. You still won't do it. Why not? Because being believed doesn't matter that much to you. To Ed Mentali's daughter, it might, but not to you. Don't be so sure. I was famous once. I was a heroine. Now, what am I? Poor, lonely, and middle-aged. My mother's dead. My son neglects me. And nobody pays me any attention. Nobody cares what I do or think. Well, I don't like that, Chris. I don't like being ignored. In the lines of her face and the dulling of her eyes, I glimpsed her secret faltering self and realized greed may no longer be the driving force behind action. This way, I'd be famous all over again, but not a heroine. Well, I never really liked that role anyway. She steadies the gun with her other hand, raises it as her arm lengths, and clicks back the trigger. This one fits better. Like father, like daughter. Still thinks I'm bluffing? It's all over, Simone. Don't you understand? It's finished. She nods. For one of us. For both of us, I rather think. At the very edge of my vision, I see a milk float trundling gently towards us along Daniel Road. I sense normality slowly stirring in the city behind and below me. Tomorrow has become today, and yesterday compressed into one. Goodbye. I swing around slowly and start away down the hill. Fix my gaze on the distance. I'm blinking eye on the city hall clock. I once had struck the hour of Michael in execution. Stop. Simone cries after me, her voice cracking. But I don't stop. I don't even look back. I walk on at a steady pace, squaring my shoulder and filling my lungs with a clear, unhandselled air of many mornings as I may live to see the end. Thank you for listening.